I think we're going to get started. Let me welcome all of you to the Beacon Council. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Frank Nero. I'm president of the Beacon Council, and we know this is going to be a very exciting and interesting presentation. But so many of you, I'm hesitant to introduce any of you specifically, but I do want to acknowledge a former county commissioner here, Pepe Cancio, who worked very closely with us. And as an aside, he's a great connoisseur of art. There's a little joke that he bought an art piece of mine which looked like a 2-year-old did it. He did it for charity, he sort of lies to me and says he still has it, but I don't know. But anyway, welcome all of you to the Access Breakfast, and we're gonna get started right away. I do want to introduce someone. None of these happen without commercials, so we're going to give you our commercial. I'd like to introduce to you Walter Robinson, who is with Transwestern Commercial Services. He's our chair of our member investor services, and I would just like to introduce him to say a few words about us, actually. Walter?
Thank you, Frank. Good morning and welcome. My name is Walter Robinson. I'm the chairman of the Member Investor Committee of the Beacon Council. Many of you are members. If you're not a member, we encourage your consideration of membership. The benefits of membership, certainly it's one of the main ones, is access to prominent business leaders, community leaders, to work side by side with these leaders to continue to promote Miami-Dade County to the world. So we're all aligned in our mission, and it's a lot of fun. Invitations to events such as this one. We hope you enjoy it. We're excited about the program coming up. Participation in industry-related committees. You can focus on the area that you want to promote for Miami-Dade County, whether it be your own industry or one that you want to focus on. Several unique marketing opportunities are available to you, such as this. Hotel Sofitel sponsored us this morning. We thank you for that. We had the first non-baseball event in the Marlins Park. That was for our Beacon Awards. So promotions to those items that really hit the community would be another benefit for you. So we encourage you to consider membership in the Beacon Council. At the registration desk, there's some information for you. Sasha Dolgesser of our membership department is here also. Sasha, back of the room. I'm here. Would love to talk to you afterwards if you have any other interest. And in addition, outstanding market research. Jap Dunneth is our director of research here. So any information that you need about Miami-Dade County to help you or your business, we'd welcome the opportunity to assist you. Thank you and enjoy the program.
Okay. Our organization is headed by great private sector leadership, and I want to acknowledge some of our past chairs who are here. Alex Vilak from the Miami Herald is here. Jack Lowell, FEC is here, and I think Ben Malaire is here from... Oh, there you are. Now, Jack, it's unlike you to be in the back and be shy. I'd like to introduce to you our incoming chair, who will take over the organization October 1st. He's a corporate attorney with HEICO, and let me introduce to you Joe Pallett. Joe?
Thank you, Frank.
Good morning, and thank all of you for being here. We're sold out this morning for the Access Breakfast, which is no surprise to any of us who live and work here in the Brickell area. I want to take a moment, though, and also thank Sofitel Hotels for sponsoring this Access Breakfast and our Access Breakfast in the future. So we're very grateful to you all for doing that. Most of us who are here are here today to find out more about the Brickell CitiCentre billion-dollar project, urban shopping center mixed-use development that's going to be right across the street, right down the block here. Consider for a moment the significance of a project that's more than $1 billion. Expected to have 1,700 construction jobs on average for each of the 4 years during development. More than 3,800 permanent jobs. Projected annual retail sales of more than $300 million. Miami Herald may have said it best when they called it an investment in Miami's future. Here to talk about that investment is Steve Owens, a 30-year veteran of Swire Properties, one of the leading real estate developers in South Florida, and a subsidiary of Hong Kong-based Swire Properties. He's been in charge of U.S. operations since 1985. Prior to assuming his current role as president, he oversaw Swire's commercial and residential investment portfolio, totaling more than 2 million square feet. He's headed the master planning of Brickell Key in downtown Miami, a mixed-use urban development. He's directed the development of the 328-room world-class luxury hotel, the Mandarin Oriental, with its renowned 5-star spa and Azul restaurant. His responsibilities with Swire have encompassed some $3 billion in projects throughout the states of Florida, Hawaii, Texas, and Hong Kong. We're going to hear from Mr. Owens this morning, and we'll save some time for questions as well. But without further ado, I want to, on behalf of the Beacon Council and everyone here, welcome Mr. Owens. Thank you, Steve.
Let me begin by just saying thank you to the Beacon Council and this opportunity to talk a bit about Brickell CitiCentre. I too, perhaps, am here to learn a bit more about Brickell CitiCentre. I hear a lot about it. I know a little bit about it, but it is very much an evolving opportunity, and given its scale, certainly it is something that is still moving forward in what and how it will be. I'm interested to see so many people here, because when I received this kind invite to come here, they said, well, you know, it's late July in Miami, everyone's away, they're in North Carolina, they're in Maine, they're diving for lobsters, they're fishing in the Bahamas, there won't be a very big crowd here, so no problem. Well, I thank you for your interest, and clearly from many of the familiar faces in the room, it's a reflection of the interest that you have, not only in Brickell CitiCentre, but in what's really happening in our urban city and in our downtown. So let me just tell you that I've put together a little bit more of a shorter version. Some of you have seen this before, and different aspects of it have changed. But it is a brief version, and we can do some Q&A after if you like. Brickell CitiCentre, clearly locations in the heart of Brickell. We used to start out saying it was in the heart of Brickell. We think it may very well become the heart of Brickell. And some say that for the urban area as well. A little bit about Swire. Many of you know we've been around here for a long time. Some know us as that Hong Kong company that's been referred to. Actually, we are now a 6th generation British family-run business, although we have several public company aspects to what we do. And I think this slide just very quickly shows you something that took place perhaps in January 18th of this year. 2 public components to what we do as we go back with our roots through Hong Kong. Swire Pacific, which at one time was our parent company, has a market cap of 16 billion US. And as of January 18th, as I mentioned, Swire Properties became a publicly traded company. And our market cap is 15 billion US, and the debt on Swire Properties is about 15%. So very low gearing, capital for future growth, and Miami is one of those opportunities that we look to. In the other slide, you may have also just noticed, just for a quick comment, a reference to an airline, Cathay Pacific, one of the largest international carriers in Asia, Coca-Cola. We are one of the 4 largest private bottlers of Coca-Cola worldwide. Industries, shipping, and of course properties. We were established in Hong Kong in 1972, and that is Swire Properties, so we've been at it 30-odd years, approaching our 40th anniversary. We're a developer of mixed-use properties primarily, and we do that for the most part in China and in Hong Kong, although we do have significant investments, of course, now here in the US and in the UK. Completed investment portfolio, and this is what we actually own and maintain and hold for long term, is now 19 million square feet. We have 11 million square feet under development, and you will notice the bottom line in property under development, 2.9 million square feet in the US. That's our Brickell CitiCentre project. So in short order, within 3 years, we'll have about 30 million square feet. What's not listed here is another 5 million square feet of commercial space that has been developed but is no longer owned by Swire, and 35,000 residential units, which were developed and, of course, sold on. Hong Kong, just very quickly, some fancy photos of nightlife, but I think this photo really starts to tell the Brickell CitiCentre and the Miami story. This is an old dockyard that Swire owned, and adjacent to it to the north is an old sugar refinery, Taikoo Sugar. Now, that's not so long ago, that's what it is today. That's 20 years. There are now 180,000 people that live where there was once a dockyard and a sugar refinery. This is the sort of transformational undertakings that we as a company focus on and very much believe in. You also notice a fairly significant infrastructure that's been put in place to support this development. The commercial area is obviously in the center, where Swire has begun the redevelopment of a portion of that, and that tall office building is our new Swire Properties headquarters. Then we go to the photograph on the left, top. That's the old British barracks as it existed in Hong Kong. We bought the first phase of that in 1984. We bought the second phase in 1988. And the photograph to the lower right there, Pacific Place, very much a model of Brickell CitiCentre, is what now exists. It's very similar in concept in that it has a retail podium of approximately 500,000 square feet, offices, hotel, and residential to support it. Just a quick photo of Pacific Place, the retail center. To put it in perspective, this shopping center is considered one of the two premier retail urban centers in Hong Kong, and many consider one of the top in Asia. Sales per square foot are virtually equal to what we have here in Miami in Bal Harbour shops at approximately $2,300 dollars per square foot. It's $2,300 at Bal Harbour, $2,100 here. So to put it in order of magnitude, Bal Harbour is the #1 shopping center per square foot in North America, so we have a comparable one in Hong Kong. Just a quick reference to the types of shops we have there in Pacific Place. Mainland China, something a bit different. This photograph here is of Sanlitun Village, which is a village shopping center that is developed in the Consulate District of Beijing. It has, as its anchor tenant, Apple. It has an Apple superstore, 4th highest sales per square foot of any Apple store in the world. It is a very successful and unique property designed by an outstanding Japanese architect. Others around the China region, Taikoo Hoi, which is opened last year, again similar to what we're speaking of in the sense of the retail podium, offices, and a Mandarin Hotel above it. Dazhongli in Shanghai is similar. Indigo in Beijing, which is opening in September. And of course, I mentioned Sanlitun Village. And then coming back to the Dachi Temple site in Chengdu. Chengdu, we think, is a city in China not so many people heard of, but it's the gateway to the western Tibetan plateau and a very exciting part of China. So we have a very unique site there that is surrounding a former temple. All the buildings are low-rise in reference to the height of the temple, and the architecture is very sensitive to the site, but an exciting opportunity for us. Miami. Most of you know this photograph. Some of you look at it from your office. But that's what we bought. So in 1979, November through January of 80, this is what we were acquiring. We keep this photograph around for two reasons. One is so many people come to me and say, when we're about to do a new development on Brickell Key, that what happened to all those beautiful trees that were there when you bought the site? And then the second part of it is just for the historic reference, because that's what we have today. I think the more interesting relevance is not about Brickell Key. I think if you look at urban Miami, you look at the Central Business District and what you can see of Brickell Avenue, and you look at what we have today, That was not done by Swire. That was done by the collective community of Greater Miami, the development community as a whole, with the appropriate public leadership. And to me, if a picture's worth 1,000 words, this one is that. Because it really says so much about where we've come, how quickly we've evolved, and I think, in our view, so much about our future. Couldn't help but reference the Brickell CitiCentre location in yellow to the west there. So that tells us a bit about how Swire approaches this. How did we get to Brickell Key? What did we see? And where does Swire go after Brickell Key, which is Brickell CitiCentre? This is just a quick reference to the major shopping centers, where they're located, their strategic size and relevance. And I look at this as the proverbial hole in the donut. The greatest concentration of population that lives inside the circle, the smallest circle. One could argue the most concentrated growth occurs within the smallest circle, and it has sort of the least amount of retail. But Brickell CitiCentre is not just about the retail. We're in an urban environment that has offices, it has significant residential, it has some very, very good hospitality, and of course it's continuing to grow. Miami's evolution as an urban center, I think, is just beginning. We obviously believe that, or we wouldn't be investing what we are. But I think it's really more about Gateway to Latin America. Is something that we think is very well entrenched. We don't see it going away. The concept of Gateway to Latin America, we think, is fundamentally sound. The intriguing part of that is that Miami benefits whether Brazil is booming or Venezuela is headed south. And I think it's that dynamic that where you get the opportunity that comes from both economies going in different directions that is the real benefit of what we have. Brickell CitiCentre, many of you have seen this slide. We continue to use the same one because it's very simple and straightforward, and I think it's easy for you to visualize. So much of the conversation about Brickell CitiCentre has really been about the retail. There's no question retail is a vital component of it. It's approximately 500,000 feet of that, although 100,000 feet of it is F&B and entertainment. So 400,000 feet roughly of shopping. But we do have other components. We have a hotel with service apartments. We have 2 office blocks, one of them a wellness center, and we have 2 residential towers. This is in what we call phase 1. Phase 2 is a small office building to the right of the Metro mover there that you see designated office. We will not be building that phase. That actually sits on the Eastern National Bank parcel, which we own. And that's for the future depending on market demand. And clearly we know at the moment office demand is not such to support new construction. So we'll leave that for another day. But the balance of it is in fact being built. And that is on the 9 acres that we now own. With a great deal of work with city and county officials. In fact, we had 9 public agencies to coordinate the master planning and approvals of this project. And I'm proud to say we've worked through all but one and are very close on that one. So it's been with some outstanding stewardship really by city leaders to get to where we are, and to that we're very grateful. But I think the public-private partnership example of Brickell CitiCentre is something not to be taken lightly. We clearly could not be here today without the understanding and the commitment of the City of Miami, in particular Commissioner Sarnoff and Mayor Regalado and the Planning Department, who really got it when we met with them early on and explained this project and the uniqueness of what we were trying to do and the relative fundamental importance of the connectivity aspects of it. It not being just 3 independent blocks, but operating as one, they got it. And I think it's that kind of ability to look forward that allowed us to be where we are today. Again, residential to the north and west, the 2 smaller office buildings you see noted there, hotel on 8th, And of course, all of it has 3 levels of retail. A couple other things worth mentioning here. We have embraced the Metro Mover. The station will become part of our project. We will be reworking that station so that it's an integrated component of the development. Many people say to me, well, Metro Mover, who really rides it? Miami will never embrace public transportation. We believe differently. We saw some of these same kind of views in certain other cities in Asia that were very limited in that aspect, and we see how that's evolved. We don't believe in America petrol will be forever $4 a gallon. You know, we're living in a subsidized energy world that we don't think can be maintained long term. We might be wrong, but we don't think so. We think also as the urban fabric of Miami continues to evolve and more people live here, use of that system will grow. The other thing we think is fundamental to it is that at the northern end of the Metro Mover line is a fairly large assembled site around the Miami Herald original purchase piece, and we think at some point the owners of that site will develop something significant. That really is the northern anchor of the Metro Mover, and we're the southern anchor. 16 minutes in between at no cost, without having to get in your automobile. For someone who might like to go to several venues in an evening without having to pay $20 to park at each one, I think Metro Mover is a good alternative. The more people you have using it, the better the system becomes. We believe that's the direction it's headed. Certainly Metro Rail from the airport coming into Brickell Station and then connecting with this Metro Mover system is going to be a benefit as well. So we believe in the long-term aspects of that, and we think it's going to be beneficial to our development. A rendering that this is about 4 or 5 months ago. You start to see more of the concept of how the project works in terms of the 3-dimensional aspects of it and also the detail of some of the buildings. Also notice this what looks like a spider web or a trellis that runs through the development. That we have trademarked as the climate ribbon. Initially it was going to be, as we say in the South, a big darn trellis. But it's evolved to be much more than that. We've had a great deal of work on that. We've engaged some of the outstanding research at 2 of the top universities to work with us on that in how we manage climate with this. Originally, again, it was just to keep folks dry on a rainy day. It's been in the wind tunnel quite a bit, and now it's into breeze management, wind movement, solar design in terms of solar loading. It will divert 5 million gallons of water in a normal rain year. We have the capacity of retaining 400,000 gallons on site in cisterns to be used as part of our sustainability commitment. So it has potential for energy making, so to speak, and we're looking at that, and it has great potential. So we're very excited about that, and it's become much more than just a big darn trellis. This is basically the program. Retail's 500,000 feet, office 2 towers as mentioned, 120. Residential is 2 towers of 410 units, whether it's 410, 47, we don't know. There's some combinations for penthouses and larger units and that type thing that may affect total units, but it's on the order of that magnitude. The hotel is 264 keys. The service apartments, and people often ask me, what does that mean? I don't think we have service apartments in this part of the world, maybe one in New York and one in Chicago, that work the way we operate these. We have them in Asia. They work very well. They're very high-end, fully appointed apartments. They're not hotel condo units. These have, in some cases, even have maids' rooms. Some are 3 bedrooms, as I say, with maids' room. So they're fully appointed. You can move in, you can live there for 3 months or 6 months. You can get services from the hotel, or you can live a more traditional life, buy your groceries, take them there, prepare your own meals, that sort of thing. So we've had great success with it in Asia, and it's managed by the hotel, and so we're excited to bring that new offering to Miami. The Phase 2 office building, as mentioned, is just that, future phase. Location, people often ask about traffic. No question, traffic is something that for any of us, I've lived in Brickell 18 years, so I know a little bit about traffic. I also know how long it takes to fix a pumping station on the south end of Brickell at 13th. Should have been a private sector job, it would have been done in 8 months, but anyway. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. But the relative point about traffic is that this whole project was designed with the foremost concern about traffic. And the goal was, from the beginning, no net new traffic introduced to Brickell. If someone wants to go to Brickell Avenue, they obviously can. But we service all of our service vehicles, both in and out, whether it be deliveries of goods for department stores or trash out. Comes in on 8th. We have 4 lanes coming in from 95 and likewise going out. So all of that is done with that basis. We turn around all of our service vehicles within the development. We have no servicing that can be visually seen from the street. We take advantage of the one-way street system to bring everything in on 8th. Turn it left in through the project and turn it left again and exit out 7th. So Kimberly Horn, who we worked with for nearly a year on that basis, has been really good at trying to guide us in that direction. So we try to be very sensitive to the traffic aspects of it, and of course when we talk about traffic, we talk about automobiles, we talk about parking. And one of the elements of Brickell CitiCentre that has been a bit of focus has been the below-grade parking. And it has not been done too often here in Miami, and when it has been done, it's been met with sort of a marginal success, I suppose. But I think it's clearly part of our future. If we look at the developments we've been doing of recent, as parking garages get to be 8, 10, 12, 14 stories, that is a very, very difficult, while economically perhaps easier to do, it's a very difficult way of living. First of all, I think it has a negative impact on the streetscape, on the pedestrian experience. And if we're really going to figure out how to develop to a different standard and move Miami forward, we have to figure out how to put parking underground. They do it in many other cities, many other places in the world, some with similar soil conditions and water issues that we have, and it's done successfully. Now, our approach to it has been to try and figure out an innovative way of doing it. We know that you can put in the normal sheet piles, work in the water for 6 months, have divers go down and try and place rebar and all that stuff. We've tried to approach it differently. Many of you have heard some conversation perhaps, and even a little bit of an article or two on soil freezing. Well, soil freezing is something that we looked at. We've done a test. It's never been done to this scale before, ever, but it's been around as a technology about 40 years. It has a very good application in smaller situations, and we will be using it in that. The benefit of pursuing soil freezing, which some of the big and initial contractors, especially the ones that work here normally, there was quite a bit of resistance to that because it's, let's do it the way we've always done it. And we were saying, no, we need to figure out a better way. So as a byproduct of that, we've come out with 2 or 3 other approaches. DSM is one of them, deep soil mixing we're looking at. And so there's some new technology and some technology that has not been applied directly in this way that we are considering. So the innovative aspect of how to develop this below-grade parking is very much in the forefront of our decision making, and we will very soon make that choice. But I raised the point because I think it's extremely important for us to figure out how to do this going forward. It's going to make all our developments better. So we as a development community, and I think we as a city, if we can embrace an approach there, the more we use it, the more affordable it'll be. I think the more cost effective we will make it in time, and I think it will make all our developments in our city a better place. Sounds like I'm a salesman for soil freezing, but I'm not. I mentioned below grade parking. This is how it works. We have 3 city blocks. You will see that the parking, this is 2 levels below grade. And there we connect across the whole of our east and west sites, running the parking under Miami Avenue. We have a tunnel connection to the north site under 7th Street. So with the technology of parking today, we can manage this as one parking garage. We can, with the information systems available, we can continually advise people, depending on where they want to go, how to get out, and which is the easiest way to get back to 95 or to any of the other street systems. So we're quite excited about it. The level above it, which is 1 level below grade, is not connected. That's where all the utilities run in the various streets and so forth. So we have to respect their locations. These are some early just visuals to show a couple of things and how they might work. This is the Metro Mover Station as seen from 7th Street headed west. And we are investing very heavily in high-speed vertical transportation. What does that mean? That means escalators. Someone told me this project has more escalators per square foot than any project in North America. Now, normally escalators are the first thing that get value engineered out of a project. One, because they're costly and require maintenance. But if we look at urban shopping centers throughout the world that are successful, they work because you make it comfortable and quick for people to get up and down. And we are a 3-level center, therefore we need to make sure that that happens. We take the escalators down to the garages as well. So for ladies wanting to get up, it's a comfortable, safe environment with good finishes in the garage. It's not some dark area where you got to look in the corner and find an old slow elevator or dark stairs. It's quite the opposite of that. So in this instance, we're going into the public domain, and we are investing in a series of escalators to make sure it's very easy and comfortable to get people up to the Metro Mover Station, encourage them to use it, and the development of a public plaza, a real people place below it. You'll note that's quite different than what's there today. This is how the retail generally lays out. This is actually a reference to the 2nd floor because you'll notice we have pedestrian crossings across Miami Avenue and 7th Street. These are activated retail experiences. The one over Miami Avenue has been discussed as a restaurant. And they could become other retail, but the idea is that the retail customer remains totally engaged in the retail experience as he goes across the 3 blocks. So in effect, it operates as one large shopping center. We think this is extremely important, and this is the reference I made to early on when we went to see the city leaders and explained this, and they understood the vital aspect of this making it work. So the 2 parking references on the northeast and the southwest, of course, for the condominium parking, which we've segregated from the commercial parking. This is looking north on Miami Avenue. You'll see the pedestrian crossing with the restaurant, and that acts as a bridge up at the 3rd level, which also allows people to cross as well. The corner stores, we believe, on all the corners really of the development are likely to be 2-story stores. We all know who those tenants are that like their 2-story retail stores with their own internal stairs. The interest here is that the pedestrian experience of shopping is really from the street. Our goal is to embrace Miami 21 in the concept of that. It works well in Michigan Avenue, Market Street in San Francisco, Madison Avenue in New York. Why can't it work in Miami? But you have to commit to it in a significant scale, and I think Brickell CitiCentre is, we believe, of that scale. So the pedestrian experience of shopping from the street happens on all sides of the entire development. You can also enter from the internal aspect of the shopping center as well. So, but we think it's important that we stay in touch with the pedestrian that's on foot. You'll notice also the climate ribbon, the big darn trellis crossing up at the top. These are just shots of something that might happen inside. There's nothing to infer here that any of this is exactly the way it'll be. Much of that has to do with who the tenants might be, and we're having some very interesting discussions in that regard. Landscaping is not likely to look like that. We've pretty much concluded we needed something a bit different. But these are, again, very early images, and they're more to reference concept. This is looking west, the department store, and then over the department store we will have a theater. And really on the third level is a dining deck. Most people say, well, shopping center, third floor, bad idea. Merritt Park, half a dozen other references around. Even the early days of Bal Harbor, third level, not so good. Generally, that's right. We also looked at Asia and South America. We found 14 very good shopping centers in Latin America, which operate 3 and 4 levels very successfully. And in many cases, it's how do you activate that third level? How do you make it a place where people want to go? Our third level is a dining deck. It's entertainment and F&B. And we have so much interest in the F&B side of it that it's really amazing. We also energize it. That's where the Metro Mover station empties into the development. So the focus is theaters are up there, restaurants are up there, and our restaurant approach on F&B is not all white tablecloth fine dining, but is a full menu from casual ethnic to fine cuisine. So the concept again is to activate that area. We're talking about several music venues. I can't use any names, but potential for jazz clubs and blues clubs and that sort of thing. So one thing that we do know about multi-level shopping centers in urban areas is the critical importance of F&B and entertainment. And in this case, we are 20% F&B and entertainment. Obvious example of that is next door at Mary Brickell Village, which has evolved more as that than the other. So it's very important. If you look at the amount of spending by visitors and tourists who come here, 40% of what they spend is on F&B and entertainment. So we have to be very focused on that, and we have to embrace that. And it's also part of the 24/7 dynamic of Brickell CitiCentre. People have asked me often, why are you building so much? Why not phase this thing? Well, critical mass is a relevant component of success. This is a long-term project. We're not building this thing to say, okay, in 4 years when we open or 3 years when we open, are we successful or not because we've leased or sold X amount. You know, this is a project that we see really its long-term implications and its value will be 10 years from now. It's at that time you've tweaked your retail rent rolls, you've refined your offering in terms of the product mix, you have been through any bumps in the road in the market in terms of either office space or hotels and that sort of thing. But really shopping patterns have evolved and people have made that transition to knowing there's a new alternative. I can go here and how the parking works and what they like and dislike. So it's really 10 years out that you look at this project and say, what do we have and what do we do? And that's the long-term perspective that we take on a project like this. Again, examples of our other retail developments, just in terms of types of tenants that we have and who they are. Where are we? Well, we had a groundbreaking on the 27th of June. Since that time, we have selected a contractor through a public bidding process for the foundations, the civil work, and the below-grade parking. That piece is about $100 million. That has been awarded. Turner Construction Company was the selected party, and they will begin mobilizing on the site next week. So you will see some fairly significant activity there. there's also been some significant activity, and I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the fact that we moved 28 of the largest and oldest trees in Brickell. It's not something that we took lightly. Quite frankly, it was an opportunity to preserve something that doesn't exist everywhere. And perhaps the most significant part of it is we found a great home for them. We spent $500,000 US moving these trees, so that's pretty expensive per tree, but many of those trees weighed over 100 tons, and they had to go individually in the middle of the night from our site to the river, onto a barge, out through the Brickell Bridge and up to New Museum Park. So hopefully someday we'll all walk up there and enjoy those very large old trees and remember where they came from. But so that's been a big activity. That actually took 6 months between the root pruning process and the actual movement. Excavation foundations scheduled to start, as I say, within the next couple of weeks, and we'll move forward. The completion schedule, while aggressive, so far we think it's still doable. Contractors are committing to it, and so it's really a second half of 2015 completion. This is another rendering, advanced a bit, starts to show the amount of landscaping that is occurring on all the roof decks and some of the sustainability aspects of that, and how the project is refined. And if you actually blew this up, you can look into individual components of it. You can see quite a bit of detail. So that, in a nutshell, is Brickell CitiCentre. What else can I tell you about it? Touch just a little bit about sustainability. I talked about trees. I talked about water retention. This is the largest neighborhood LEEDs pre-certified project in North America. Now, our approach to sustainability is it's a lot more than LEEDs. LEEDs is a new commercial standard that we generally use, and we're proud to be working towards that. But sustainability is really about a commitment to our economy, to our ecology, and to our community. And our goal there is to, in many ways, we will exceed LEEDs, and we will exceed it in certain ways where we don't get any credits for it. But we think it's a long-term benefit of the project. This is a goal of SWIRE. It has been for many, many years. 18 years ago or a bit longer, SWIRE Pacific, our then parent company, was given a UN award for their environmental awareness. And this was long before it became commercially fashionable. So we maintain our commitment to sustainability and our ecological commitments. So just a brief comment about that. Plenty has been written and said already about the various things of job creation, which you mentioned, $15 million a year between county and city ad valorem taxes, employment. All of these things are very positive benefits, and I think reflect the commitment really that SWIRE is making to Miami. And last but not least, people have asked me, why now? And for a few of you who may have heard our CEO, Martin Coven from Hong Kong, speak at the groundbreaking ceremony, his comments in effect were, why not now? And he said he thought this was the best development opportunity he's seen in the last 2 years. And he spends a lot of time in Asia and places that are growing at different rates than we are. So I think that, again, is the optimism that we have for Miami, in particular the urban area. And we think it's, while we have a long journey, and you climb a tall mountain one step at a time, and I'm sure we'll have some challenges here that will surprise us. We'll get through them, and one day I think Brickell CitiCentre will be very much something that not only we as a company can be proud of, but we as a community. And lastly, if you just look what's happening around us. We've done more for land values in Brickell than anything I can ever remember in my 20-odd years here. So that reflects a certain excitement about what's happening. It reflects, I think, the interest in the potential of what we're creating. And Swire is certainly not doing this alone. The other developers who are embracing West Brickell now are going to help make this a significant part of our community. And we're very grateful for their support, because when they put their money in behind us, it says that they believe in it too. And so I like to say that even though you started out with my name in much too big letters, this is really about Swire, and there's a very small I in Swire. So it's not about me, it's about us as a company, and it's about us as a community. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. We're going to spend a couple minutes with Q&A, but before we do, I also want to welcome Commissioner Sarnoff, a very important partner, chairman of the DDA, and we appreciate your being here. I also want to mention before we break up, there's some flyers on your chairs about upcoming events, another access breakfast presentation about another very important project to talk about. So if you don't mind, we'll take a few questions. Jack.
Steve, with your great relationships in China, what is the expectation this project will bring both visitors and tenants from China?
Well, I'm not sure. I can make reference to an example already where at our groundbreaking celebration, a certain Chinese gentleman attended. He happens to head one of the top 3 development companies in China, in the whole of China. And he had heard about Brickell CitiCentre, and he just turned up. Now we're in very significant discussions with him about a major site that he has in Dalian. He came to Miami because he's heard about residential development here and the quality in which it's been put in place, and also the vibrancy from which the market has recovered. So he was here just to look around, and but that's an example. When you think that a major, I'm talking about chairman of a company like that from China is turning up in Miami relatively unnoticed. And now he's, from what I'm told, he's in his meeting saying we want to do something like Brickell CitiCentre. So that is one connection. Certainly our other connections in China are vital. You know, it's the fastest growing retail market in the world. All the brands would like to be there and are there. We have a number of them in our centers. But it's not just, again, this is not just about a shopping center. This is about something that's much more than that. Retailers from China, I don't know. I think that's still a question mark. For the most part, the brands have become international brands. It doesn't matter whether they're housed in France or UK or Spain or if they're Italian. In many ways, they're viewed as international brands now. So I think we'll see plenty of that, and we have some very, very encouraging interest from the retail side. So, and I think we'll be making some fairly significant announcements in the next 3 or 4 months on some strategic commitments there. But we're not prepared to talk about that today. But I'm not sure I answered your question, Jack, but Chinese brands, but I think the jury's still out on that.
The microphone coming up. Oh, God, thank you.
I think you said that you have approval from 8 of 9 regulatory bodies. What is the 9th, and do you need the approval to proceed with excavation?
Oh, I'm not going to tell you. No, actually, we're very close, and there's one small issue with DOT that we're working on, and it really has to do with a drive lane. So it's not a significant, we don't believe it's a significant problem. We have a solution. It's just the process that's taking a bit longer. The big challenges of over and under has been dealt with, and the station, of course. So for the most part, that whole experience has gone very, very well, given the magnitude of what we were doing and the time in which we accomplished it.
One back in the back here.
Does the project have a commitment to small but particularly minority businesses? And if the state legislature were to change gaming laws, is there a consideration for gaming on the project?
Both good questions. Yes, in fact, we have a commitment to minority businesses, and that's in fact part of our SAP, the special area plan that was approved by the City of Miami for the site. So first question. Second question, no. SWAR is a company, has had many opportunities to consider gaming. Obviously in Asia, not here. We have concluded, one, it's a very complex and complicated business of something we know nothing about. So we leave that to the experts in that industry. Secondly, our focus is really on this being a commercial center. Tourism will be a big part of what we do here, and we think we will be a significant tourist attraction. But gaming, again, is just an industry we don't know well, and we really don't take a view on it. I think it's up really, in my view, it's up to our city and our state and the public to decide what's best for them.
I think we had a question right here in front, Wendy.
I do. Do you have an opinion as to the most important public infrastructure priority for the Brickell area?
An excellent question. I probably don't have a very good answer. I think, again, for the most part, organizing traffic will continue to be a high priority. And really, the functioning aspects of that, how that traffic works, is very critical. I quite often say it's not always the capacity of the street, it's how the street is managed in terms of how it flows. And we can know, obviously, examples of that. We're putting in, I think, $1 million or more in new signalization. We're adding 2 new signal points with full signalization, modifying 2 others so that the coordinated flow of traffic is better. So I think that's a key ingredient. And I think the real challenge of that is that the county and the DOT and the city are not in sync. They all have different views on how traffic should flow, and that is a challenge. But at some point, as we continue to develop our urban area, the reality that, never mind whether it's a DOT sanctioned street or a county street, if we're in the heart of a major urban city, it has to function like a street in that location. So I think that's a challenge. But I also go back to public transportation. I think the more we can embrace that, I mean, just take the trolley. I don't know how many people in this room ride the trolley. I've actually ridden it a few times. I live in Brickell Key. For me to go downtown to our lawyers in one of the buildings at Met One, is very interesting. Wintertime I walk. This time of year I take the trolley. 5 years ago, would have I taken a trolley? Absolutely not. I would have got in my car, driven down there, So I think that as a means of infrastructure improvement, I think the more we can make that system as good as it can be. And I'd like to think also that as other stations are looked at in terms of development opportunities, that they too will embrace the idea of upgrading that and making it a better public experience, and therefore more people will use it.
I think we have time for one more question. Walter, sorry, you got
As a past chairman of the Florida Concrete and Road Association, I want to thank you, because our member have been supplying concrete for all your projects. Maybe ourselves, we have been doing 3 or 4 of the big buildings, and also we are buying a new company, existing ready-made concrete, that's going to be about 2 miles from your project. That means that we're going to have more plant to be able to supply concrete, and we're going to see more concrete trucks from the Florida Concrete Product Association in the neighborhood. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Well, I didn't know you had supplied all that concrete to us, but thank you. We don't buy any concrete, by the way. The contractors and the subcontractors who place it buy it, but we do embrace very much the principle of trying to supply and employ as much as we can here in Miami-Dade County, certainly South Florida. I mean, the amount that we're investing and spending, every dollar that stays here benefits our community, and that's important. Now, that doesn't mean that every single job must come here. I mean, clearly, to design this big darn trellis, we had to go to France because they found somebody who's a specialist, but that's 2 or 3 people. But in principle, the idea of buying from local suppliers, employing locally in every opportunity we can is something that we're very keen to do, because in the end of the day, we all should be doing that because it comes back to us. Sorry, must be my wife.
For 1 second, I failed to recognize somebody who had been waiting for a minute to ask a question, but I'll let you go ahead and, you okay with that?
No, she can wait.
Okay, one last question, I'm sorry.
There's been a lot of rumors in the marketplace concerning traffic during construction, including the possibility of closing South Miami Avenue. Can you address that today?
No, I can't. Well, I can, but I can't give you anything definitive. In looking at, what's the term they use? TMUs, traffic movement units, or something like that. They talk about what are the best approaches to trying to address some of the construction challenges we have. We had 4 contractors meeting with various city and county agencies to talk about how best to approach that, how best to mitigate the impact of it, and for what terms. 2 of them proposed a continuous operation of and openness of Miami Avenue, especially obviously from north to south, during the entire process. 2 of them were of a view that if we could close it for a short period of time, still providing pedestrian access, but not automobile, that we could actually cut quite a bit of time off of the construction period. So I think there's still a lot of work to be done there. There are pros and cons to both, and I don't think any decision will obviously be made without all the input and the approvals of the various agencies, in particular county, city, and state.
Frank, come up for one brief
Steve, we just
final
want to thank you
presentation.
for coming. A little something from the Beacon Council.
Thank you.
Part of our official uniform, so we
Great.
hope you'll enjoy it.
Great.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you all very much.
Before you leave, just a couple things. I want to reiterate what Joe had said. If you want to learn about a very exciting project, sort of the potential Miami to Orlando connection, also sort of a Grand Central Station down here in Miami, you can come August the 8th in here is on Cumber from FEC. Along the lines of what Steve was talking about, and hopefully this will become the next center for this, we want to promote September 6th is Fashion Night Out. It's a national event for you to all go out and participate in our retail establishments throughout Miami-Dade, and we know this will be a center, hopefully, for Fashion Night Out for years to come. And then our annual meeting where you'll hear from Cesar Conde and Univision, about their exciting plans, and that's October 10th right here at the Intercom. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate your support and interest.
I may have lost track of time there.
No, it was perfect. It was actually right on target. Thank you very much.
Great presentation, exciting.